Hey, it's Evan Owens here with the weekly reboot. And every now and then we get to do a series that we call Conversations. And it's where I get the luxury and the honor of really bringing in somebody that I look up to, that I learn from, that I've walked with in ministry in some way onto the weekly reboot. And so for those of you who've been joining us, I know we've had some great series this year. We've done the Fight and Finish series. We've what else have we done? There's been the series on trust. There's been some great series, but I believe that these next couple of episodes that we're going to do here are going to be a blessing to you. We're going to be speaking specifically to our first responders. But here's the thing. Even if you're not a first responder, there's going to be a lot in here about family, about relationships, about things that are impacted when we go through difficult seasons that I know is going to be a blessing to you. So we are going to be joined by the one and only Adam Davis. And if you're not familiar with Adam and his books, this guy has sold literally hundreds of thousands of books. He's an author. He's a speaker. He's somebody who's been involved with Reboot now for several years. And I can't wait for you to learn from his wisdom. So here we go. All right. So Adam, first off, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, man, Evan, it's an honor to be back with you guys. Always a good time. Thank you for having me.
It is. Now, Adam and I, we've known each other for a while, but he is a unique distinction among other people we've had on the show, in that Adam and I have traveled together a lot because he was Reboot's guest when we did it back in 22, maybe 23. I'm not sure. We did a Reboot reunion tour.
Oh, that was
where
so
we got
much
to
fun.
go to a lot of different cities and speak to collections of Reboot grads all over. Maybe we'll do that again someday, but I know I barely lived through it. My three kids were like, where's daddy? Who is daddy? You know, my wife and I were gone all the time. And so, but Adam and our team got very close during that season. And every night he would close the event and just bring down the house. And so it's an honor. We've been wanting to have you on forever, make it work. And he's up here in Nashville, so we were able to make it work. So first off, man, tell them, if you all don't know, how many books now have you written?
So I just finished book number 10. The first
10?
The first two were self-published. The first two. So, but I just finished number 10 and working on number 11 now.
You talk about them like they were illegitimate children. You're like, I don't really acknowledge the first two that I wrote, but still, 10 books. Jenny and I did one, and it's going to have to be our greatest hits because I'm not sure we're ever going to have it.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
I was going to say now. Okay, so you've written 10 books.
Mm-hmm.
You've also co-written some stuff too, or been the writer behind some books that other
Some
people
that I can't mention. Yeah.
get the credit for writing.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's the way, those of you who don't know, it's called ghost writing, or sometimes collaborative writing, when you're sort of behind the scenes, and he's done that. And I got to say, I'm guessing that when you were growing up, you didn't think to yourself, you know what I'm going to be when I grow up is a author and a speaker. I'm guessing that was not in the cards.
No, and in fact, being a communicator was nowhere on the radar because I had a speech impediment.
Oh, okay.
And so I was sent to speech therapy for a while because I had a lisp, which you may hear if you ever come to my events. You'll hear it come through every once in a while. It was trauma related because it just came out of nowhere, you know. But being a communicator was nowhere on the radar because, I was going to see a speech therapist.
Yep. So here you are, and then
And I made a D. I made a D on my senior English paper in high school.
Well, let's all thank Google Docs and ChatGPT for proofreading our copy. No,
Oh my gosh, no.
No, that's amazing. Okay, so I want everybody to get to know you. I mean, it's easy to look at a series of books and be like, man, this guy sold. I mean, like Behind the Badge, how many copies is it sold now?
More than 100,000.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
Which is crazy.
It's crazy.
There's 800,000 sworn peace officers in the United States, and that's a significant accomplishment. My goal is to reach every law enforcement officer in the country.
Wow.
And we'll do it. It may take another few years, but we'll get there.
That's crazy. Okay, so I want them to get to know the Adam that I've gotten to know a little bit. Would you mind just setting the stage for us? I know we want to talk about family and seasons of raising a family, especially through times of transition and hardship, but share with us a little bit, even before you got into being a first responder. You mentioned you had some family dynamics. Tell me about your family, because I think a lot of people will resonate with parts of your story, and share as much as you want to. If you want to learn all of his story, quick plug, he has a book called Unconquered that really goes into details about his story. It is, you will read and you'll literally think to yourself, this dude and I must have had the same story. He has such a way of painting a picture in a way that you can see yourself in it. So I highly recommend his book on Concord.
Thank you.
But go ahead. Yeah. Share a little bit about your upbringing and sort of some of what your experiences were like from a family.
So when I was about 5, my parents divorced, and which is not uncommon in our world today. But when my parents divorced, like the divorce is on a child is hard enough. Mm-hmm. Like I wanted to be around my dad a lot more than I was able to be around my dad, and we're pretty tight today. You know, that really anchored in when I became a law enforcement officer. But mom and dad divorced when I was about 5, and then I was left with a neighbor who was kind of like my babysitter, I guess. And he was an older male, not a family member, no relation whatsoever. And it started off pretty normal, just him being a friend and neighbor and, caregiver, whatever, babysitter. And the first time I was exposed to what I would call hardcore pornography was when I was about 5 years old. And that was the first time I was raped. Sexually abused would be the most politically correct way to say it. Mm-hmm. And then that would not be the last time. Mom remarried a preacher. Mm-hmm. And so I grew up going to church a lot every day.
Yeah.
Most of the messages were, they were really good, but the whole concept was based around fear. Mm. And I understand that fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, but it's not a fear in terms of fear of punishment or fear of terror. It was different. It was always an unattainable goal or standard to live by.
Right.
And so I grew up going to church a lot. And then again, at 15, I was left with a babysitter, and this time it was a woman in her 30s who was married and a leader in the church. And it started off with strawberry daiquiris, wrestling, and sex. And there's nothing more Alabama I could say right there. And
that's the title of the newest book, Strawberry Daiquiris, Wrestling, and Sex by Adam Davis. The Adam Davis, the next on hard copy.
Yeah. So, and there was so much manipulation and deception and spiritual abuse and emotional abuse and sexual abuse. And then when I brought it forward to my dad and the family got involved, Dad, his first thing was, I got to move to protect you. I got to get you out of this situation, because he found out about all of it, and he wanted to protect me. That was his first words, is I've got to move to protect you. And some others that were involved, who I won't name specifically, were more along the lines of, you knew that was wrong.
Right.
And refused to validate how it had screwed me up.
Right.
In my perspective of trust or faith, of love or intimacy, sex, relationships, even God. And that probably did more harm than the events themselves.
Right.
Because I spent a lot of my life.
They didn't believe you when you were trying to communicate. No. It's basically like, well, you shouldn't have been.
You shouldn't have been there. You knew better. Yeah. You were raised in church.
Right.
But they don't understand the process of grooming, which I didn't either at the time.
Right.
I didn't learn that until 20-something years later.
Yep.
And as a law enforcement officer, but I feel like coming out of the gate, that all ended when I was 16. So I had some dating relationships.
Yep.
After that were toxic, would be the absolute best way to say it, because my perspective was jacked up. And then I met this beautiful young lady in high school in a business class, and we would write these notes and fold them into different shapes. And I know that there's people listening that
romantic
remember this.
Origami down in Alabama.
Yes. And we'd send these notes back and forth, and man, we couldn't get enough of each other. And she came with me today. She's not going to be on this podcast. She just doesn't want to be on the camera, but she is the reason I'm here.
Yeah.
To this day. And so we got married about a year later at the age of 18. And that's this coming September 2025 will be 25 years we've been married.
That's awesome. I wish I had one of those, like, how some podcasts have like those buttons you can press for like sounds. I want to have like the sound. I don't have any of those.
She got cheated. All I knew at 18 was I love this young lady, this woman, and I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. But nothing prepared me for what was to come in the early years. Nothing prepared me for anything, really. I've just kind of winged it and trusted God, number one. But I'm like, there's no manual on how to navigate this stuff. When conflict would arise in the first year, I'd pack my bags and run. Like, quite literally, I would pack my bags probably 50 times that first year.
Wow.
And I met somebody who said, no, I love you, and I'm here, and I'm not leaving. I love you for you. It doesn't matter what you've been through or anything you're dealing with. I love you.
Yeah.
And so she kind of wrestled the monster and tamed him, and she's loved me through it all. And that was through 25 years. And look, there's been times we've been on the brink, but she got cheated because she didn't get a whole man. She didn't get a healthy man. And that's how I feel. I feel like, we were already at a disadvantage getting married at 18.
Right.
But she had somebody that didn't know how to communicate, didn't know how to deal with emotions, wasn't emotionally aware or intelligent. I don't think any of us are at 18. But I was really behind the eight ball, And so I still process that to this day.
Right.
Like, my hustle is for the mission, for the kingdom of God, but it's also that woman deserves the best in the world. She deserves to experience her dreams come true too, and so it's love motivated.
Yeah.
And so we have 3 kids now, and they're all 3 almost adults. 2 of them are, and the third is he'll be 16 within the week, and he's going on like 57.
He's already got back problems. He's already got he loves a nice pair of slacks and a good piece of fish.
No, he's 15, but he already has his welding certificate at 15 and got on the dean's list.
Isn't welding where you can become like a journeyman? Isn't there like
he's already had 2 job offers, $75 each at 15. Crazy. So
that's crazy.
And the other 2 are doing phenomenal too. Our daughter is in a program to become a licensed counselor. Brilliant. For families and marriages. So it's,
if that's not a redemptive thread, then I don't know what is. I think something you shared, for the folks listening or watching this, I think it's so easy in a reboot curriculum, in a reboot program. Bluntly, we talk a lot about the ways we were wounded, right? We talk about all the different ways that people hurt us, and we spend a fair amount of time thinking about those people. One of the things that we don't really spend as much time on is what you mentioned, which is a good maybe homework assignment for you all, which is to slow down and ask yourself, right, who was it that said, I love you, I'm not going anywhere, I'm with you in this, along those ways. People that should have gotten off that train years ago, maybe 25 years ago, but they have stayed on that train with you all. And when's the last time you stopped to slow down enough, not just to say, hey, I appreciate it, but to actually say, like, thank you for that, and to actually do that? And so what I want to do is just, let's take a second. If you're, in the car right now, maybe you want to hit pause on this. If you're in the group right now, maybe you want to take a second and just write a to-do note, put a calendar invite in your calendar that says, call that person and tell them what they've meant to you. Because I think when we start focusing on the people who weren't there for us, the people who hurt us, sometimes that can spiral into negativity versus you heard him say, because some person said, I'm going to love you, I'm not going anywhere, you can pack your bags, but I'm coming with you, type thing. Because somebody said that for him, all of a sudden this changed his trajectory. And so I want to make sure we take stock of that. So maybe now's a good pause point for if you want to take a minute and maybe even share that with your group. If you're in a weekly reboot group right now meeting, share who was that person and what has it meant to you. Okay, so you get married. You've talked about where your kids are at today, but obviously 25 years is 25 years.
A long time.
It's a lot of time. And so for those of us who are watching who dealt with some type of sexual trauma, sexual abuse, which never is apart from psychological abuse. I've never met anyone who has sexual and physical abuse that didn't also suffer psychological abuse.
Sure.
Because all abuse at its core is psychological abuse. All abuse is. And so you become this person with adult responsibilities, and yet you have the maturity gap caused by a delay of trauma that has kept you from being able to make the decisions that you would make today. You don't have the wisdom tank to pull from, et cetera. So I'm curious, you enter into this. What was your expectation of family? What would you have said back then? What is family? What would a healthy family look like? How would you have even answered that? Or did you have no clue?
At 18,
Yeah.
man, all I knew was to show up and love her.
Yeah.
I had no vision at 18. It was like, we're gonna get married, and we're gonna work, and we're gonna save money, and we're gonna travel some, and eventually we'll have some kids and
Just get on the tracks.
yeah, we're gonna find a good church, but there was no solid vision. There was no solid vision for what I wanted my family to look like.
Right.
Now that's developed over 25 years, because God's put people in my path that have kind of shown me what that looks like. But if you don't know what, this shouldn't be, speaking disparage of my family. I don't ever want to talk crap about people or dishonor anyone, especially. But if you all come from not necessarily broken homes, but parents who
A
divorced,
dysfunction.
yeah, and like I knew a lot of dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have an image in your mind of what that looks like, or an example of what that
Right.
looks like, how are you supposed to cast a vision for that?
Right.
Like Walt Disney, you got to use an imagination,
Right.
and that can be even worse.
Right.
So,
or you're going to turn to what celebrities do, or turn to what media tells you it should look like, or turn to what that song tells you love should look like.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that so many Reboot participants, they find themselves repeating the same cycles in their life. And one of the things that I often tell them is, imagine you're sent in to play quarterback in a football game. You've never watched a football game.
No.
You've never read a playbook. You've never played a video game about football. You don't even really know what the positions on the field are. And they say, hey, you're in charge. Manage the game now. Go help us win. This is how a lot of husbands, and I think fathers and mothers and wives feel when they get married. They give birth to a family. They don't have a playbook. They have not studied. They've never seen the game played the right way.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden now they're in charge. The ball's in their hands. And we have no clue what our strategy is, what our vision is going to be, and what right looks like. And that's why I think Reboot can be so important. And that's why getting in a healthy church, getting mentors is so important. It's because you're able to be like, oh, wait a minute. This is what I'm doing. This is what right. I want this. And I would say that sometimes, it's easy to you buy a marriage book or you go to marriage retreat. But what I found most helpful, find a couple that you want to be like when you're 65 or 70. Because there's really, two types of marriages. I think those that fall more in love the older they get, and those that fall less in love and they just make it to the end.
Yeah.
They fall apart.
Yeah.
And so I think who do you want to be like when you're 20, 5, 35, 55 years in marriage? Who do you want to look at and be like, that's
I'll tell
what I
you
wanna
this,
be?
if you don't have a vision for what you want your family to look like today, this is nothing that I've ever documented or discussed, but I would say it should begin with being love motivated.
Good.
It is not your spouse or your children's job to walk on eggshells around you. My children and my wife had met together and discussed, when Daddy starts acting like this, then we need to leave him alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I regret that. I wish I would have known. I wish I would have been in a place to receive that feedback, and so I could have changed it sooner. But I wasn't in a place I wouldn't have received it. So it's not your spouse or your children's job to walk on eggshells around you. So be kind and gentle.
Or manage your mood.
No, be kind and gentle. Be emotionally aware of your own self, but let everything you do be driven and motivated by love.
Yeah.
And that is the greatest lesson. And you got to love God first. You got to love yourself. And if you love God and love yourself, you want the healing. And healing is messy sometimes, but they shouldn't be the casualties. They don't have to be the casualties.
Yeah.
So protect them and love them well, and communicate openly with your spouse, and have a plan, but pray with them, do things with them, make memories. Because here's what I'm going to tell you. If you don't make memories today, you don't go get a chance, because you don't get this over. You don't get a redo. You don't get to go back and hit rewind and try it over. Once it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
And you're going to look back and you're going to look back in the past. I've got regrets. You got some guys that beat their chest and say, I don't have any regrets. I've got regrets. And my regrets are that I wasn't present more than just physically for my family.
Right.
Walt Disney trip. We went to Disney in Orlando when they were very young, and I was.
Well, that was your first mistake.
It was in June.
kidding.
It was in June. It was 900 degrees.
Yeah.
But I was such a jerk, man.
Yeah.
And I can't take them back to that age and do it over.
Right.
And so just communicating those things to them and work through that and get some help, man. Find somebody that can get you through some real power that's going to change your life.
Yeah.
But finding a couple that is kind of emulates who you want to be.
Right.
Then
A stencil.
yeah, spend time with them. Yeah. But don't just spend time with them. Ask them how they got there.
Right.
And one of the greatest things you could do is don't focus on the end game so much, but focus on what you've got to do to get there. If you want a great marriage, if you want a home, most people don't know what a vision for the family looks like. I'll tell you mine. I want a home of harmony, of peace, of calm, and a place of healing.
Yeah.
It's a safe place. They can talk about anything, anytime. There is no judgment. We're going to work through it together.
Right.
This is your home. We are here. We're always going to choose you over anybody else.
Right.
You're our team. We're your team. And but having that place where they can do that, and your spouse shouldn't have to play buffer for your emotions. And I was too full of pride to deal with my stuff. I was I was in this kamikaze death spiral, and really didn't know a way out. And I'll tell you this, and I'll shut up. About a month ago, I guess, on a Saturday night, I was sitting at home, and everybody had gone to bed, and I went and laid down, and I couldn't sleep. And I was tossing and turning. It felt like I had like a cinder block on my chest. And I'm laying there, and I can't sleep, and I'm tossing and turning. So I get up and I go in the living room, and it feels like the air is stale in the living room. Like I cannot breathe.
Yeah.
My nose is open. I'm not congested or anything, but I can't breathe, and my heart rate is like 95, 98 beats a minute. And it took me about an hour and a half to realize what was going on. Some call it a panic attack or an anxiety attack or whatever. I don't know what sparked it. Something in that evening, I saw something or heard something, and it set it off, I guess. But when I realized what was happening, I knew how to attack it. Mm-hmm. I knew how to address it, so I started doing box breathing. And I started doing my breathing techniques and grounding techniques, like I'm looking at the wall and the lamp and the rug or whatever and the TV. Right. And I listened to music, and I put on instrumental music, and and some of it helped, but nothing was working. I began to worship.
Yep.
And it couldn't be this stuff about I'm going to get my breakthrough and like cheer you up, rah rah church songs. It had to be stuff that lifted up the name of Jesus.
Yeah.
And the whole thing began to change. Mm. First of all, you got to realize what's coming at you.
Yeah.
And there's an enemy that will use trauma, that he'll use pain, he'll use your own mistakes.
Right.
To use that to create a wedge between you and your family, because the family is a representation of what God created in the very beginning. And he hates it. And he's not going to stop at anything short of destroying you and then your family. He's not going to stop with just you. You got to decide if you're going to stand up or you're going to fight back and draw a line in the sand today. And you're going to say, I want to choose my family over this junk that I've been carrying. And don't be like me and carry it for 20 years by yourself.
Right.
And your family deserves the best. You could give them $10 million.
Yeah.
But if you don't have healing and peace inside, you're not going to have a peaceful home. You can change the dynamics. You don't have to carry on the generational curse.
Right. No, I think a few things you said there, some nuggets. One is it's not your spouse's or your kid's job to be a buffer between your emotions, your mood, and everyone else. I think how many of us, when we've been in chaos of trauma, we feel like the world should start catering to our emotion. Don't you see I'm struggling through something? Everyone else adapt. And yeah, there's a time and a place for that. But there's also, if you've been doing that for months, years, this is not what they signed up for. they didn't sign up to necessarily be a buffer between your daily, hourly, minute to minute emotional shifts and the people you care about. And then number two is, recognize the attack and fight spiritual war with spiritual weapons. And, I just want to close here. We only have a minute, but I want to talk just briefly there's probably some people watching who are either they are divorced now or they are single. Maybe they've never been able to have children. And this idea of family for them is a grief point. It's a grief point that things have not turned out as they envisioned they would, or maybe they're okay with where they're at in life, but family's not a huge part of. I'm wondering, what of these principles that we've talked about, just again 60 seconds on this, what are some of these principles that we've talked about, and how can I, if I'm a single person or if I'm already divorced and I'm saying, hey, my kids are estranged from me because I've put so much enmity, sorry for a big word there, but so much space between us and them now. I don't know how to get back. I don't know what I can do. What would any advice for them?
Yeah, if you don't have anybody, then the only one you got to work on is you.
That's a good word.
And, I was coaching somebody last week who had lost their job and lost their significant other. And I was telling them something very similar. I said, just focus on you right now. What is God cleaning your plate to prepare you for? And so if you are in a place where it's not that family's not important to you, you're just alone.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because of things you've done in the past. First of all, we do have consequences here on this earth. Sometimes God spares us from those. And I have been an abundant recipient of grace and mercy. And I speak with empathy. And I tell you, work on you.
Yeah, that's good.
Work on mind, work on body, work on spirit. And then see how he prepares you in loving yourself that way for what's to come.
Yeah. I think it's so good to say that you're right, because you can't control what that other person's going to do.
No, you can't.
But if you you control what you can control. So y'all, again, I know we didn't even get into the first responder topics.
Nope.
There's so much good stuff. Now, I will say the reason we're spending so much time on this first part, especially talking about family, is, last shameless plug, there's a new book you're working on, which is
Bulletproof Family and 90-Day Devotion. Spin-off of Bulletproof Marriage.
Yep, Bulletproof Marriage, which is a book all about how to have a bulletproof, a healthy, resilient, resistant to chaos marriage. And the new one's going to be Bulletproof Family. And we don't know the exact launch date of that yet, do we?
Oh, I do.
He does, but it's a secret. But anyway,
it's coming soon.
It is coming soon. So stay tuned. Go follow Adam at, what are some of the social places?
Official Adam Davis.
Official Adam Davis on Instagram,
Facebook, all of it.
His personal home address, we're going to share that now. Social security number is that.
It's in Nashville.
So we just want to encourage you, whatever your family dynamic is right now, there's hope, there's healing for it. We will see you on the next episode of the Weekly Reboot.